I hit play on my phone, the quiet hum of the holiday gathering dropping into a tense, electrifying silence. Unease rippled around the table, eyes darting like startled animals. The recording spilled out, each word a revelation, each pause a thunderstorm, shattering the fragile mask of family harmony. The accusations lingered unspoken as I sat in that room, enveloped by the warmth of family, a warmth that felt more like a lie with each passing second. Their laughter was a faint echo, utterly disconnected from the truth that gnawed at the edges of my resolve. That hidden recording festered in my pocket. Sweet melodies mingled with my heartbeat, an offbeat rhythm that underscored my silent turmoil. I scanned their faces, treasuring these unbroken smiles, knowing these would be the last moments they'd carry such peace. My fingers brushed against the phone, its cold surface grounding me in the reality of their betrayal. I was on a precipice, a single press away from chaos, struggling to decide if vengeance was worth the cost. The morality of it twisted inside me, but the need for truth hungered for release, even if the fallout could be devastating. The dining room was a portrait of warmth. Strings of twinkling lights draped over the fireplace, flickering with a cozy glow that blended with the rich scent of rosemary from the perfectly roasted turkey. Plates clattered softly as my sister laid them out, her voice light and cheerful as usual, painting her casual happiness around the room. I watched from my seat, the golden metallic reflection of the cutlery catching my eye, each knife and fork laid with immaculate precision, as if sheer perfection could keep our world from shattering. I traced the worn wood grain of the table with my fingertip, absorbing the laughter and stories circling the room like ghosts of past, cheerier gatherings. Each chuckle punctuated an invisible bubble around me, one that no one seemed to notice. My uncle regaled a tale about some misadventure on their recent trip, his arms swinging as though to conjure the escapade in midair. Chuckles erupted and bounced against the festive walls, but I felt them slide past me as if I were an outlier, some distant observer that didn't quite fit in the frame. My parents lifted their glasses, the clink echoing, a sharp, crystalline sound that cut through the merriment. Their eyes met with a fondness that should have brought comfort. Instead, it twisted into a knot deep in my stomach, the bile of truth rising as they swayed their arms in a toast. To family, my father said, his voice steady, anchoring everyone in a moment of shared joy that felt painfully artificial to me. I forced a smile, the muscles around my mouth pulling tight against the truth lodged in my throat. Every clink of the glasses strike reminded me of why I was silent. Why the strained smile plastered on my face was all I could muster. Each one a reminder of what I knew, the secret clenched tight in my grip like the napkin that had turned damp with the sweat of my palms. As my parents clinked glasses for a toast, I suppressed the bitter taste seeping into my mouth, knowing their happiness was built on a fragile lie, I thought. An unspoken confession that simmered beneath the veneer of normalcy, threatening to bubble over. I swallowed, trying to quench the rising guilt that tangled with my sadness, a sadness for not just me, but for them too. The truth splayed across my conscience like an open wound I couldn't ignore. As my gaze skated over each smiling face, the hollow guilt gnawed, realization sharpened, reasons began to fray. But beneath it all, my resolve solidified, turning over in my heart like the determined roll of a distant storm. This masquerade couldn't last, not for me. I realized the truth couldn't stay boxed forever. The joyful chaos surged on, each cheerful note a brick in the fragile edifice about to crumble. And yet, I remained silent for now. I swept another look across the room, swallowing back what needed to be said, holding on just a little longer. For this was the calm before, and they, my family, deserved this one last illusion. The clinking of glasses marked the stillness of our family gathered around the dinner table, the sound reverberating like a gentle wave across the room. My brother stood, the light from the chandelier casting a warm glow on his face, making his features seem almost ethereal. His voice carried a genuine warmth that made everyone lean in just a little more, basking in the affection he effortlessly radiated. To family, he began, his eyes soft with nostalgia and love. We've been through so much this past year, and yet, here we are together, stronger and more united than ever. The words seeped into the room, wrapping everyone in their embrace. I could see my mother's eyes glistening with pride, my father nodding along, the corners of his mouth slightly upturned with the shadow of a smile. But inside me, each word felt like a needle, piercing the thin veil of my composure, threatening to unravel it entirely. The kind of piercing that digs deep into the marrow, a pain that's sharp and reluctant to dull. Underneath this tableau of familial warmth was a secret I carried, one heavy enough to bow my shoulders, but invisible to the untrained eye. My brother's voice was steady, each pause measured, each glance shared with a smile. We've faced challenges, yes, but those challenges have only made us appreciate each other more. Knowing that despite everything, He gestured to the table, the faces calmly enjoying the moment. This is where we always find our way back. His sincerity, his belief in our togetherness, it was almost cruel. Because what lay nestled beneath my skin was anything but unity. It was a tremor of truths unspoken. The laughter around the table swirled like smoke, so vibrant it was almost tangible. My throat felt tight, constricted under the weight of words unsaid. With every sip of wine I took, I hoped to steady the tremor within, but the liquid warmth offered little solace. He raised his glass higher, his eyes meeting mine. Here's to more years of joy, health, and each other's company, he concluded, his gaze locking with mine as though he could see through the storm churning beneath the surface, but I knew he couldn't. To him, I had long mastered the art of smiling on cue. I forced a grin, joining in the chorus of cheers that erupted with the clinking of crystal and silverware. Yet, in the back of my mind, a silent resolve was forming, slow and deliberate like a tide. A whisper of courage thickening into certainty that maybe it was time to tear open the fabric of this fragile semblance. Unseen, unnoticed, my hand clutched my own glass tighter, as if bracing for impact. Either I'd find my voice or the secret would continue to fester. The decision hovered, waiting with patience the world didn't seem to offer, relenting only to my courage to finally let it unravel. Her eyes, full of expectations and love, felt like hands around my throat, and all I could manage was a choke, my sentiments slipping into shadows. Dinner table chatter buzzed around me, a soft hum of laughter and clinking cutlery, but the spotlight in my mind was a harsh, unwavering glare. "Tell us something sweet, honey," my mother's voice cut through the noise, turning a spotlight from a single face into a full luminance across the room. Her smile was genuine, unguarded, an invitation into warmth and shared history. I could see it in her eyes, how she wanted to frame this moment as a connection, a bridge from past to present where old stories could rekindle fondness. But those stories seemed like ghosts, wisps that I couldn't grasp. My mind was elsewhere, entangled in the discovery of that recording. It felt like a trapdoor swinging open beneath me every time I tried to stand steady in these moments. The stammer was a stranger tripping over my tongue, as if forming the words was a betrayal of the heaviness sitting in my chest. The memory I wanted to summon was there, just out of reach behind a haze of confusion and dread, the moment I stumbled upon the recording, stumbling blindly through a maze of lies I hadn't known existed. Something clanged loudly, a fork dropped, forgotten, as I flinched from the echo of that memory. My father's voice drifted in, a lifeline pulling me back to the surface of now. "Come on, we're all ears. You know how your mother loves these stories." His playful wink was a distraction, a gentle nudge away from shadows. The room flickered in and out like bad reception as I fought to find footing on familiar ground. There had to be a memory in there worth sharing, hiding beneath the layers of tension and secrets. One time, a birthday party, filled with balloons and laughter, but even as the images formed, they were stained with the knowledge of what I knew, the truth that stayed locked inside, growing heavier by the day. Pushing back the pressure, I plastered a smile that felt brittle enough to snap. "Remember, when we tried camping in the backyard? It was a safe offering, rooted in laughter that was light, harmless. We were so scared, we ran back inside. Thought a raccoon was a bear." The chuckles that followed were a balm, soothing the raw nerves for just a moment. As their laughter filled the spaces around me, my soul twisted, aching. My gaze dipped, skimming the napkin between my fingers. It was thin, vulnerable, much like I felt, a fragile barrier between my mind and the truth I couldn't yet release. The fleeting ease in the room settled around me, heavy once more with the knowledge of what lingered unsaid. Each smile shared was a weight in my heart, propelling me toward the confrontation I knew was inevitable. The moment loomed like a storm on the horizon, darkening everything it touched. No joy could remain untouched by that growing shadow. As I pushed my chair back from the table, a tight knot twisted in my gut, urging me to escape the swirling storm of half-spoken words and unspoken judgments. "I just need a moment," I murmured, barely noted in the cacophony of clinking utensils and hushed whispers. The air seemed to thin out as I walked, a corridor of wavering reality leading me to the bathroom. Each step echoed the anxiety threading through my veins. Inside, the stark fluorescent light greeted me unkindly, stripping away any semblance of pretense. I closed the door, the latch clicking into place with a finality that resonated in the hollow silence. Leaning over the sink, I forced myself to look up, meeting the gaze of the reflection before me. The mirror was unforgiving. The person staring back seemed unfamiliar, eyes hollow from sleepless nights, yet, beneath the weariness, a glint of something else. The burden of truth weighed heavy, pressing against my resolve like a constant, relentless tide. The desire for release simmered, a dangerous undercurrent pulling against the calm facade. The thought of finally speaking the truth was intoxicating, almost seductive in its promise of liberation. Yet, tethered to this was the fear of the wreckage that revelation could leave in its wake. My heart pounded, its rhythm a frantic protest against the prison my silence had built. Breathing deeply, I closed my eyes, seeking solace in the darkness behind my lids. But even there, the chaotic dance of everything left unsaid taunted me, refusing to be quieted. The past haunted these closed eyes, playing on loops, moments of deceit wrapped in polite smiles, the weight of secrets shared through knowing glances. Each memory was a brick, laying the foundation of a lie now grown too large, too obvious to ignore. I opened my eyes, staring hard into the reflection once more. It's time, I told myself, the whisper barely audible in the stillness of the bathroom. The words hung heavy in the air, an unshakable vow etched into the space between me and the mirror. The reflection seemed to shift, the eyes gaining a new sharpness. This was my moment, the quiet before the chaos, a fleeting peace before the storm I was about to unleash. I straightened up, rolling my shoulders back, feeling the resolve settling in like armor against the uncertainty ahead. Turning away from the relentless, revealing light, I approached the door with a newfound clarity pulsing within. As I stepped back into the dimly lit hallway, a sense of purpose guided me. There was no undoing the choice ahead, no backward glance or second chance. The truth waited, coiled, ready to emerge, just as I was, armed and expectant, stepping once more into the fray. I stood outside the dining room, the wood of the door cool against my fingertips. My heart drummed a relentless rhythm, its beat distinctly out of tune with the smooth hum of laughter that seeped through the thin barrier. The recording device nestled in my pocket felt like a brand, its hard edges digging into my leg, insistently reminding me of its purpose. I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, and let the knots of anxiety within me loosen, just a bit. It was time. Pushing the door open with deliberate calm, I was greeted by the heady scent of food and the mellow gold of softly lit chandeliers, their glow forming puddles of light on the polished wooden table. Familiar faces encircled the spread, their expressions relaxed and carefree, worlds away from the turmoil brewing inside me. But already, I could feel a shift as my entry was noticed, wary glances darting my way, curiosity piqued by something unseen. I took my place at the table, each step measured, each movement purposeful. Where hesitance had claimed me before, now resolve guided me, fueling an electric tension that threaded through the air like invisible static. They were still oblivious, of course, their conversations weaving a tapestry of casual normalcy, shielding them from the upheaval only I held the reins to release. The truth was mine, coiled and potent, nestled secretly within the small, unassuming device in my pocket. The weight of the truth pressed heavily within the room, silent and unseen, waiting for my command to unfurl and rattle their blissful ignorance. The thought thrummed through me, a line of fire that burned away any lingering doubts. I caught eyes with them, one by one, each smile and not a silent vow to maintain the facade I was about to shatter. So, I began, my voice threading through the room like a taut wire, each syllable measured, deliberate. There's something I've been meaning to share. Conversation stilled, forks paused mid-air, curiosity morphing into a tangible force that pressed into me from all sides. As I spoke, my fingers brushed the bulge in my pocket, a reassuring anchor in this turbulent sea. The room held its collective breath, poised on the precipice of revelation. Yet, it all seemed to slow for me, the moment suspended on invisible threads, holding us captive in its fleeting silence. It was as if the very air conspired to keep secrets just a little longer, savoring the agonizing breath before the plunge into uncharted waters. A silent nod to myself, a final internal agreement passed through my mind like lightning swift, unquestionable. Then, with a calm bred from desperation and unwavering determination, I reached for the device. They all watched, anticipation nearly tangible, like a storm waiting to break. In that heartbeat just before the sky collapses, I poised myself to let it all unravel, to let the truth finally breathe. The room feels like it's breathing, heavier somehow, each inhalation sinking with the rise and fall of my chest. My fingers brush the smooth surface of the device tucked in my pocket, its presence both reassuring and ominous. There's a weight to it, a small, metallic promise of undoing. I stand slowly, the scrape of my chair against the floor sharper than a knife. It cuts through the murmured conversations, silencing them one by one until only the echo of potential fills the space. Every eye turns toward me, expectation folding into the quiet like crumpled paper. I should be scared, shouldn't I? But instead, there's this strange calmness, an eerie detachment wrapping around my nerves. Like I'm floating just above myself, watching it unfold as if it's happening to someone else. I'm aware of the blood thudding in my ears, the minute tremor in my fingers as I pull out the recorder, the moment crystallizing like shards in a kaleidoscope. No one's moving. Not really. The hush consumes us as I raise the device, its weight an anchor in my palm. The room constricts and expands around me, my breath shallow, nearly stifling. My heart accelerates, propelling me forward with each pulse. People are perched on the brink, eyes wide, the spectrum of their emotions stretching between disbelief and anticipation. Their faces are a blur behind the veil of my focus, yet I know they're watching, waiting. I take a deep breath, and the air tastes metallic, like before a storm. A storm I'm about to unleash. My own words crash inside my skull, scrabbling at the precipice of my lips but held back by a tenuous grip of fear and determination. As my voice broke the silence, I start, feeling the quiver in my words. A quiver barely masked by conviction. I knew the words I didn't speak would echo louder than any confession. Their gazes pin me in place, like butterflies under glass. My throat tightens, squeezing around the sentences that remain stubbornly trapped. Each second drags until the tension snaps. I let the first recorded voice unfurl into the room. It's jarring, almost surreal, like dredging sound from the bottom of a well. Faces contorted disbelief as the truth bleeds out from the speakers, raw and undeniable. I watch, transfixed and a little hollowed, as their expressions shift, shock cascading into recognition, anger rising like angry tides. It's too late now, too far gone. The world spins a little more on its axis, and I stand in its center, the eye of the storm I birthed. The culmination of everything I feared and hoped for hangs in the air as the recording continues to play, my pulse sinking with every reverb. In the silence that follows, the room feels changed, altered permanently. There isn't a hand raised to stop me. Nothing but resigned acceptance and the spark of something even more dangerous, understanding. My finger hesitates above the play button, trembling slightly. This moment, the heartbeat of anticipation pounding alongside the machinery of my mind, feels like a blade suspended in the air, waiting to fall. Everything we've built stands in the balance, lives interwoven with trust and secrets that never saw the light. Finally, resolve grips me like a vice, forcing my hand. The room is silent, but for the faint hum that seems to vibrate in the walls, waiting, holding its breath along with us. As the recording starts, a voice trickles out, echoing back memories, yet wounding afresh with each syllable. It's all there, every misplaced word, each covert whisper, an orchestra of betrayal conducted by the one person I thought I knew better than myself. They are all here, crowded around the cramped dining room, hands resting on the table like they've forgotten what they were supposed to do. I can sense their eyes, flickering like distraught flames, shifting from the tiny speaker to my face and back again, chasing the narrative they're hearing but already beginning to dread. Eyes that once shone with familiarity are now darkened by an encroaching storm of disbelief. The timbered voices spill out, one confession toppling over the next, like dominoes falling in tragic harmony. Words like knives, sharp and undeniable, slice through the air, severing ties we thought indestructible. There's no room for excuses anymore. Raw truth dances between the cracks, resilient and startling in its honesty. They hung on every syllable, I think bitterly. I can see the transformation ripple across their faces. At first, confusion wrinkles brows, eyes darting, pleading for misinterpretation. But as the recording presses on relentlessly, like a contrived soliloquy that cannot be interrupted, confusion gives way to something deeper, something painful and irretrievable. Faces shift, reshaping under the weight of betrayal, etching patterns of heartbreak onto the wooden table, our once shared anchor now a mere piece of furniture in this evolving narrative. The words float around, landing harshly, staining the air with their truths. It's almost as if they cry out, threaded with betrayal and silence I'd never noticed. My heart races against the cold tide of reality, a discordant drum to the voice's mechanical pulse. Not much is left. Just those final incriminating lines, uncoiling, striking like vipers across clenched jaws. When silence finally claims its throne, there's an emptiness it leaves behind. No one moves. Breath seems an intrusion, too loud for this delicate space of realization where the air weighs heavily, dragging us into its grasp. Glances weave between us, a tapestry of shattered bonds and breached innocence. They study me, searching for something absent from my stone-set gaze. And there it is, that stubborn kernel of hope, squeezed dry, finally expelled amid the chaos of uncovering hidden truths. In that moment, as their gazes narrow, each carrying its own betrayal, I understand the irrevocable. No words are spoken, not from my dry throat, nor theirs. The silence that follows is almost louder than the recording itself, draping over everything, marking the end, and the beginning of something far more insidious. Their voices tangled in the air, A cacophony of disbelief and pain, shattering the fragile remnants of what once was our family foundation. I stood at the epicenter, watching the people I had called my own unravel before my eyes, their expressions twisted with what felt like betrayal and confusion. Mom's voice rose first, a thin, quivering note that quickly broke into sobs, her face a mask of despair. "Why didn't you tell us?" she gasped, hands pressed against her chest as if trying to hold her breaking heart together. Her face was pale, eyes wide, searching mine for some form of justification. I couldn't bring myself to look her in the eye. Dad was next, his voice steeped in anger. "Is this a joke? You can't just drop something like this and expect us to understand." His fists clenching and unclenching, a physical manifestation of his struggle to control the storm brewing within him. He looked at me as though I were a stranger, someone who had inflicted this on him, rather than his own flesh and blood. His disbelief was a tangible force, wrapping itself around the room, suffocating in its intensity. In the corner, my sister sank into herself, her face buried in her palms. Her shoulders trembled, silent tears slipping through her fingers. I watched her, wanting to reach out, to explain, but knowing that words would be futile. The gulf between us widened with each unspoken truth, each word left unsaid. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with the scent of my sister's floral candles mixing with the sharper, more acrid tang of conflict. Every breath I took felt like a struggle, the weight of their anguish pressing down on my chest. My limbs were heavy, questioning my readiness to shoulder this burden. How could you do this after everything?" Mom's voice pierced through the haze, a mix of disbelief and a desperate plea for normalcy. Her tears carved tracks down her cheeks, carrying all my previous assumptions and their expectations with them. The sight of her pain was almost too much to bear. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the words lodged in my throat, too afraid of what they might unleash. Instead, my silence screamed louder than any protestations of innocence or confessions of guilt. It hung in the air, a malignant witness to the devastation I had wrought. Dad turned away, his silhouette a portrait of resignation and heartache. "I need some air," he mumbled, not looking back. His departure left a void that echoed around us, underscoring the depths of our fractured existence. I watched as the foundation of our family crumbled, every argument and tear stripping away the layers of what once was. The reality I had uncovered had torn us apart, exposing raw nerves and deep-seated insecurities without mercy. As I stood amidst the wreckage of our once cozy world, I realized that nothing would ever be the same. Watching the flames I set consume us all, I sat in the ashes of my own making, unsure whether the truth truly set anyone free, least of all me. The room buzzed with the frantic energy of disbelief, expressions twisted with confusion and shock simmering beneath anger. My father's voice boomed, demanding explanations, a futile quest for control amidst chaos. My brother, I searching and panicked, clung to his denial like a life raft in a drowning sea. A distant echo of raised voices reverberated around me as I stared blankly, cocooned in sound yet strangely removed. The reality of what I had done crept up like icy tendrils wrapping around my resolve. A crude symphony of accusations and recriminations played out before me, drowning out softer voices trying to temper the storm. Was this what truth felt like? This raw, devastating honesty tearing down walls, leaving scarred ruins behind? My breaths were shallow, the air thick with a stale tension that made my skin prickle. This was it, the moment of untenable clarity I had courted but never truly envisaged. The adrenaline that had once pushed words past my lips now ebbed into something heavier, a lead weight pressing against my chest, making it difficult to breathe, to move. I half-heartedly searched for an anchor in my mother's eyes, but she seemed like a stranger, lost behind a veneer of shock. There was no room left for the myths we'd all lived with for so long. They lay shattered at our feet, irreparable and alien in their truth-stripped forms. I was caught in a liminal space. The spent aftermath of confession had hollowed me out, left me swaying unsteadily on the brink of regret and an odd, cathartic release. A cruel dichotomy held me captive. The irony in seeking solace in the chaos I had wrought wasn't lost on me, a prisoner of my own liberation, enviously eyeing the wreckage as if hoping for resurrection amidst the rubble. In the shadows of familial unease, in the starkness of irrevocable choices, I measured my own resolve. Each heartbeat lengthened the silence between us all, ripe with unsaid words, with truth wrestling against consequence, a play that felt crueler with the curtains now drawn. The initial rush had slipped away and left an unsettling serenity. I was raw, exposed, and within that vulnerability was a piece of me that felt powerful, even as I questioned if power was what I had sought in the first place. Across the room, my brother's eyes finally met mine, a flicker of betrayal passing over his features. There was nothing more I can say in this tableau of disarray. We sat in quiet understanding tinged with resentment at the fragility of our tapestries unraveled by my hand. This was truth, a beast unshackled, belonging to none of us yet shaping us forever. With the echoes of our brokenness trailing behind, I stepped into the cold embrace of night, realizing that some truths cut deeper than any lie ever could. The sharp chill of the air punctured my lungs as I inhaled deeply, trying to steady the tumult within. My footsteps felt hollow on the pavement, each step a reminder of the space I'd put between us, of the words we couldn't unsay. The streetlights painted long shadows, stretching into the darkness where the light refused to follow. I was drawn to those shadows, seeking their anonymity, yearning for the shelter they promised. It felt safer there, within the uncertainty, than in the harsh glare of honesty that had shredded through everything we'd built. Her face haunted me, those eyes the moment they realized the depth of the chasm between us. They had mirrored my own devastation, the silent acceptance that nothing we'd known would be the same again. A cat slinked away into an alley, its silhouette swallowed by the night. I envied its escape, how naturally it moved towards solitude. Mine felt clumsy, born of necessity rather than choice. Each passing car broke the silence, its fleeting presence a reminder that life continued unabated, indifferent to my personal disarray. I found a bench beneath a street lamp just dim enough to provide solace without exposing my thoughts to the world. I sank into it, fingers tracing grooves in the wood, anchors in the overwhelming sense of loss. The truth had been supposed to liberate, hadn't it? Instead, it bound me tighter to the solitude of this bench, the muted cries of my heart echoing in the space between beats. The night sky stretched above, an expanse of muted stars barely visible against the city's glow. I settled deeper into myself, knowing that the decision to walk away was mine as much as it was thrust upon me by the harsh reality we had unveiled together. An owl hooted in the distance, its mournful calls weaving through the silence, adding layers to the solitude that wrapped around me like a frayed blanket. Her laughter echoed in my memory, warm and undeniable, a stark contrast to the silence now. I wanted to reach back, capture those echoes in my hands, breathe life into them again. But I knew that was gone, as vanished as the warmth of her touch. This loneliness was both punishment and refuge, a space to confront what lay ahead without pretense. The coolness seeped deeper into my bones, but I didn't move. A distant rumble of thunder hinted at a storm, a physical one this time, not the emotional tempest that had passed. I welcomed it, knowing the rain would soon fall, perhaps washing away the remnants of our fractured night and leaving me, for a moment, cleansed and new in this ever-unforgiving cityscape.